Hi everyone. Today I want to participate in the 10-10 money tag, or in other words, 10 things I wish I had known about money 10 years ago. Thought this was a really fun tag and I really enjoyed listening to other people's responses, so I wanted to add my 2 cents as well. And when I look back or think back on 10 years ago, this was when I would have been 26 years old, and this would have been, oh, if only I had known these things, because that was really the age where I started to make a lot of really poor money decisions. And if I had this information then, I can't even imagine how much more wealthy I would be right now. So without further ado, I will jump in. And pardon as I look down to check out my notes. The number one thing I wish I had known was that you can cash flow college. Everybody I knew had student loans. I had taken out student loans for my bachelor's degree. And when I was 26, that was a year before I started the MBA program at Carlson School of Management in Minnesota. And by the end of that degree, I did the nights and weekends program because I did work throughout the program. But by the end of it, I still, even though I paid for every summer semester, I took out loans for all the fall and spring semesters, and I ended up walking away with $60,000 in student loan debt from that degree. And I had still $15,000 from my prior degree. So I had $75,000 in student loan debt, and the amount of burden and fear that put on me, not so much when I left school, but once I found out I was pregnant with my first child, was intense. And in a tragedy, I got the blessing to pay for that. So my mom, I was the first person in my immediate family to go to college, and my mom had always said that she would pay, but was never able to. When she ended up passing away, I ended up getting unexpected life insurance money from her, and I used that to pay off all of my student loans. So I would trade my mom in a heartbeat for it to be debt free from those, student loans, or have that student loan. I would rather have the student loan than not have my mom, but I did feel a sense of honor in being able to use her life insurance money to pay that back. However, looking back now, it's also kind of like, wow, if I had gotten that money from her life insurance and I had been able to apply that to my mortgage or something else, I'm sure I could have used it in a number of fantastic ways. It would have been nice to just know that I could have done that, to know that student loans are not a requirement, even though that's how pretty much everybody I know had done college. So that's number one. Number two is anything about mortgages. So in 2007, my husband and I purchased our first home, and we were so stupid. We had no money down. We got the earnest money to secure the loan as like a gift from my mom and dad, to be quite honest with you. We didn't even have $1,000 saved up for the earnest money. We did an 80-20 split. Our first mortgage was an interest only, and our second mortgage was a 5-year ARM with a balloon payment at the end. Like, so bad, so bad. People, don't do this, especially since we bought right before the mortgage, the whole crisis happened. So we bought right at the height, and our house depreciated. I wrote a blog about this. It's called How Going Upside Down in My Mortgage Saved My Finances. I'll put the link below, but it was a scary and intense time. And if only we had been even remotely more educated on mortgages, we would have known how stupid we were being. I cringed to think about it. Number three is emergency fund. Having an emergency fund. I had perpetually thought of credit cards as a way to handle emergencies. So I've always had a credit card starting when I was maybe 17, and I always used it for emergencies. It never even dawned on me to save money for emergencies. I just assumed that's what credit cards were for. And then I used them for a lot of other stuff too. So, number four, aligning my spending with my values. So it kind of goes, number four and number five go hand in hand. So number five for me is just wastefulness of boredom shopping. When I was at that age of 25, 26, 27, I was starting to look more deeply and kind of better understand my spirituality and things like that. But at the time, I really didn't know what my values were. I knew what I cared about in terms of what I wanted to get done every day. I've always been a goal setter, but I never really looked at the big picture. So I didn't align my spending with what my values were. I didn't focus on charitable giving. I didn't focus on saving for the future. I didn't focus on making sure that the people and the things that I cared about the most were taken care of. I just spent money, like, without really thinking about it at all. And a lot of that was out of boredom. So that's why 4 and 5 go together for me. The aligning my spending with what I cared about. I wish I had been doing that much, much sooner than I am now. And then also just not spending so much money out of boredom. I mean, I would roam TJ Maxx and Target just, because everybody else was busy and I had the time, and I'd just go and look and see what were on the clearance end caps, and I would roam through TJ Maxx and buy things a lot of times that were ill-fitting. I just thought it was a great color and I was going to work hard to lose weight to be able to fit into it, or it was such a great deal I couldn't pass it up. Maybe I found like a $80 pair of jeans for 15 bucks, and even though it didn't fit right, I was bringing those home because that's value in my pocket, or so I thought. It's really not, by the way. I wrote a blog on that too, which I'll link that one below as well. But it talks about the idea that just because you're getting a good deal on something doesn't mean there's any value in it for you. I mean, maybe if I wanted to flip it and sell it on eBay, there would be, but I never really have been into that. I should probably look at that as a side hustle. But the bottom line is, back then I would buy things that I didn't care about. And then because I didn't care about them, I would treat them like the junk they really were to me. So there was no value in owning those objects because they were crap as far as, I really felt about it. So anyway, number 6 is the power of having a plan, the power of budgeting. Now that I'm giving direction to my money and where I want it to go, I am seeing how much more money that I really have. So often with the frivolous spending and not paying attention where the money goes, it does sort of allow people to be more wasteful and just to make stupid mistakes. And now having that written plan has made a big difference for both my husband and I, and we are really excited as we pursue our debt-free journey, because now we see and we really understand how much money we have and how much less time it's going to take to get there than we would have ever guessed. Which kind of goes along with my next one, which is the power of focused attention. As you tackle a debt forcefully, head on, with every bit of energy and intensity that you can muster, it does go away really quick. And I'm finding that with my belief in the law of attraction, I'm also seeing that other opportunities are presenting themselves to help me get out of debt even faster. So I'll talk more about that in another video, but I really believe that by developing that intensity, that burning desire to be debt-free, opportunities are falling into my lap that are allowing me to get there more quickly than I would have ever imagined possible. Number 7 is kind of a funny one. It's that the Joneses are broke. So often in my life, I would identify somebody who I admired and who I really wanted to impress. And I think there was sometimes jealousy involved in that as well, which I'm not very proud of, but I'm a very competitive person. And when I really dig deep in myself, I come to realize that much of my competitive nature is where I've zeroed in on a certain few people where they have something that I want and there's a tinge of jealousy in it, and I feel compelled to to try to get their admiration and try to get what they have, obviously not by stealing it from them or anything like that, but trying to be more like them. And there's a noble way of doing that, and I don't believe that what I was doing was very noble. I think that in my head I looked at it like from a really low energy perspective. I wasn't being very gracious with myself or even with those other people. I was painting them into a box that I thought was a very desirable box, and I wanted to be in that box too. And the truth is, I was putting them up on a pedestal in such a way that probably wasn't even true for them. And I've been talking to some friends lately, and I'm realizing that through a lot of these conversations, people are not nearly as well off. A lot of people are not nearly as well off as they like to portray. So I'm just understanding that the Joneses are broke, and that if I try to compete with them and I try to be like them and I try to look like them and I try to have what they have, I'm probably going to be broke too. So this is that whole idea where Dave Ramsey's like, be weird, be different, don't be like the rest of them, because it's not going to serve you in the long run. It goes right into my next one. Number 9 is to be grateful and content for what I have. And this is something I've worked on very, very consciously with a lot of intention for probably 2 or 3 years now. I write gratitude lists. I count my prayers every morning, and I count my blessings every night. I walk around my house and I just feel the love I have for my home and my family and the place that I live, my country, whatever it is. I'm totally thinking about the country right now because it's 4th of July weekend. So, but I try to focus on all the things that I admire about my life, and I try to express joy and gratitude for those things so much more than I ever did back then. When I was 26, I was so caught up in the rat race that I just was never content. Never. I was always looking for something else, always looking external to myself. And that applies both to my financial perspectives as well as my spiritual and just my self-esteem in general. So I wish I had learned those lessons sooner. Probably I needed to go through life the way I have to learn them the way I did. But gosh, just to think about how different things would be had I only known. And then the last one, and this is, I think, the biggest one, that you can be debt-free. Wow. When I was growing up, my mom taught me about balancing a checkbook and stuff like that, but she told me that the way you manage your household budget is by managing your debt. She never believed that she could be debt-free, and she taught me to know that debt was a core component of financial responsibility. And I was probably only just like 2 or 3 years ago did I start to understand that I could be debt-free. And probably only in the last 6 months did I actually pursue it with the intensity that I do now, because I not only realize I could be debt-free, but I believe it's in the cards for me and I'm going to make it happen. And the idea that, of saving up money to buy things that you want so that you remain debt-free never even crossed my mind 10 years ago. Like I said, I took out student loans. I used my credit cards for emergencies. I bought things with debt. I just thought that was the way the world worked. And unfortunately, that's the way it does work for a lot of Americans, but it does not need to be that way. And now that I know that, I feel like such an advocate for debt-free living and the pursuit of being debt-free that, like I mentioned previously, it seems like every conversation I have turns that way. And it's because I have such a passion for it now. So those are my 10 things that I wish I had known 10 years ago. I can, like I said, only imagine how different my life would be had I learned these lessons at 26 instead of now. But I'm so grateful that I know them now. I'm so grateful for the YouTube community and listening to other people's videos like this. You guys all inspire me, and I hope that I'm adding some value to the conversation as well. Have a fantastic 4th of July weekend, and we'll talk soon. Bye.